All right, it's 2 minutes past the hour. Let's get started. Happy Friday. This is Mark Wu. I'm your favorite host for the Server Admins Group virtual meeting. Just some quick logistics. Everyone will be muted during the whole session for better recording quality. Yes, we are recording this session. I just post the link where this recording, well, also you can find all the previous recording in the link, which is pointing to a Tableau server community. During this presentation, please feel free to use the Q&A button to submit questions at any time. We may not be able to answer your questions live, but we will have a dedicated time to answer your questions at the end. Today we have a very, very, very special speaker, Thomas, who is not only a Zen master, but he is also a Tableau server guy. Without any further ado, I'll turn to Thomas.
Hi, thank you, Mark. Hi, so thank you everyone having me. So Mark, is it the time? So shall I just take over from you?
Go ahead, Thomas, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. So I'm located in Hungary, so it's an afternoon time, especially it's 7 p.m. here. However, I will try to do my best despite this late time. I'd like to talk about two interesting topics, which is one is query banding and another is the repository consistency check. I chose these two topics to demonstrate the repository structure and the way how Tableau server with the repository objects and how the information is stored inside Tableau server. But before that, I just want to make sure that all of you are aware that the Tableau server is right now ready for testing. So the Linux beta is out. You can just get your copy of the installation kit and the documentation from the Tableau server Linux beta program URL. And if you don't want to participate in the testing, you can also subscribe yourself or sign up yourself for a notification. So when this Linux version will be released, you will get the email as soon as you receive it. So let's start with the query banding and repository consistency checks. And let's pick one, which is the query banding. So first of all, why do we need query banding at all, and what is query banding at all? Query banding is a way to just link the whole trail of the interactive consumption with the database utilization with the database queries. If you're using traditional SQL database engines like Teradata, Oracle, MySQL, Microsoft SQL, Postgres, in most of the cases, probably you are using one dedicated user which access the data from Tableau. So let's say you have a read-only viewer user, which is used in the workbooks and the data sources. And on the database side, you don't typically have more information from the queries than this user and the IP address where the query was fired, which is usually not really it's not really enough. Let's say you are running hundreds of queries in your Oracle data warehouse, and one ad hoc user, one Tableau user on the server made a very nice dashboard, but that one particular dashboard just took the 50% of the overall resources. If you are having 50 or 100 queries in the same time, and all of them are running with the same database user. It's very hard to go back to the Tableau administration team and say, okay, so this workbook or this data source causing issues in my database. So somehow we need to add additional information to the database server, to the database administrators, to make sure that they can find those people or projects who are not using the database correctly. That's one of the use cases. The second is that, again, if you're running a shared services, then chargeback is a must-have, and to make sure that you can differentiate of different cost centers. So you can differentiate between the HR Tableau usage and the finance users Tableau usage on the database side. Somehow you should give that information to your backend database. You have to tell that this Tableau, so these queries from the Tableau server are executed from this project, or this is the interactor user who are actually viewing this this dashboard. But out of the box, if you don't have an end-to-end authentication, it's something what you need to configure, and this configuration is really different from database to database. Typically, let's say in Teradata, you need to set up query vending variables and pass as much information as possible. Also in Oracle, you need to set session variables. In Postgres, you need to set also some session settings. But all of these needs to be somehow configured. All this additional information somehow needs to be added to the database for each and every database connection. So the question is that how can we do it with Tableau? The good news that we can use right now init SQL feature, because right now each and every data source inside Tableau can actually use this init SQL feature. The init SQL is a initialization SQL. So whenever your data source, even if it's embedded into the workbook, even if it's a published data source, whenever it connects to the database, it will send the information, or it will execute the query what you just added or configured as this init SQL. So this is the most important thing. This is something which needs to be configured for each and every data sources, regardless if it's embedded or published on your environment. The second is that you can use remote operating system usernames. ODBC drivers most of the time passes this information. So you can track down the desktop users by their IP address or operating system users. In this case, you might not need to use init SQL, but somehow you need to identify who is the user behind the desktops, and IP address and operating system username is one solution for that. And then, of course, you need to encourage this the usage of this banding for all databases. So encourage the usage. You have to teach all of your users to set this up, but obviously, as they are users, they will never set up, or just occasionally, or sometimes if they are pressured hard enough, they will do just for some times and then forget it. So it's the hard part. How can you make sure that you have this additional information passed to the database for each and every queries? So let me show you like how this init SQL works and what's this additional information, and then later on we can talk how can we ensure that without any user training or without asking the users to do it for us, how can we make sure that it's configured everywhere. So let me ramp up a nice Tableau desktop. Let's use a Postgres example. So I will connect to my Postgres database. Here in the background, I can see the log files from my Postgres database, so I can see which are the queries executed by the Tableau application. One of the issues that I see here, it's coming from the demo user, but I don't really know which workbook or what really executes this query. However, at least I have the user name and I have all the queries and the timestamp by default. Of course, I can just take this log as it is, load into a database, and based on database users and queries, I can make some analysis, but that's not really the information what I'm looking for. Okay, so let's just create a simple or not so simple example. Let me query all the session information from this Postgres database. So this pgstat activity table will return all the session information, all the running queries from this database. I will use this to show how this query binding work after we set this up. So it's here. I can go here and let's create a very nice tabular visualization and check like what are the sessions, what are the usernames for these sessions, what are the queries for these sessions, and actually that's the information what I have. So username, I can check also the database name. That will not something not really meaningful. And now the question, how can I add something more? How can I see from the database side from here, like who executed this custom SQL? If something goes wrong in the SQL, who needs to be notified? To do this, I can use this init SQL feature. So I can say that set application name to hello from, and I can use a couple of parameters here, like the Tableau application, which should be like Tableau desktop. And let me just add this, and it created a new connection. And if I add here the application name, I can see that this particular session came from a Tableau desktop. Also, if I go to my log files, I can also see that this information is available from my database backend. So the database administrator who see only this log file can now know that this is a Tableau desktop user. But again, I can use additional things like the workbook name. That's something very useful to identify workbooks, for instance. And now if I go back here, I should see like a third line, and I can see that this particular session which executed this query came from the Tableau desktop and the book 1 workbook. And here again, I was able to capture this on the database side. And now if I load this log file, or actually I can read it from the database itself. If I look to the database, I can check, like, show me all the queries executed by the book 1 workbook. Also, I can include the Tableau username. I can include many additional information. I can hard code the project name. I can hard code who published the server. So I can use these variables to pass information from Tableau to the database log files or the session view. And this is not Postgres related. You can do it with each and every database. It works with MySQL. It works with Microsoft SQL. It works with Oracle. It's a little bit different what you use as an init SQL, but at the end of the day, what matters is to pass these additional informations from Tableau and log it into the database. So that's how it works in a nutshell. And again, you can have some very sophisticated one application. Who is the Tableau server user? What's the full username? What's the Tableau version? What the query is using? So there are many additional parameters what we can use. And if we go, if we check the XML, the workbook or the data source XML, it's called as one-time SQL in the connection attribute. So if you change the workbook's definition with a search and replace tool, or if you open it with your favorite VI tool or VI improved, then you can change the one-time SQL by hand, or you can use some Python scripts to add it to your workbooks. So we see that with the init SQL, we can pass additional information from Tableau, like the username and the workbook name, to the database and store it with a query, so we can later analyze, do chargeback and stuff. But how would you do that one by one for like thousands of workbooks and data sources? And I guess most of you who are here in this call are dealing with a relatively large size of large Tableau environments. So doing this would take a lot of time. And of course, you can use, I don't know, TabCMD or REST API, but there are some issues. For example, I don't know if you ever tried to change 1,000 data sources with TabCMD or the REST API. It takes a lot from time perspective, but on the other hand, it puts a lot of load to the Tableau server. And also to publish something back, even with TabCMD or even with the REST API, you have to know the data source passwords. And in some environments, that's something what even the Tableau server administrator doesn't know. Like if it's a real, if it was built by a project, it's not. It sometimes happens that you just don't need, you can't get all the database passwords. So what we are using, and that's something what I will share with you when I'm back from my holiday, and I will just show this presentation right now. How can you just insert these init SQL statements directly to the Tableau repository without any need to download the workbooks or data sources? Just go into the Postgres repository, find where these workbook XMLs are stored in the server, and search and replace things there directly to make sure that every database connecting to the Postgres server have this initial SQL out of the box. So this whole stuff, like editing workbook XML after publishing to the server, this whole thread started was, I don't know, 5 years ago when Joe Mako asked the community, how can we edit the workbook XML after publishing? And for him, it really was to change a date field. But the concept is the same. You can definitely go to the server and change the XMLs on the server, change the init SQL, change the connection information. You can actually do mass modifications without using any REST API or TabCMD, which makes the whole process fragile or not really convenient, because you have to script a lot, you have to know the data, the database passwords and so on, and you need to do again one by one and not like in a mess way. And just for the record, it gets like 14K views, so it's something which is a pretty common question in the Tableau community. And again, the latest question was just like from today, so it's still a hot topic. So how can we locate the workbooks? How can we find the workbook information in the Tableau Postgres repository? Let me show it, because that's maybe easier. I have a server which is quite empty. It has only the Tableau samples installed. And this is here, I guess. So maybe you are familiar with this nice tool. This is the graphical user interface of Postgres called pgadmin. And yesterday I just realized that this pgadmin graphical user, SQL tool is bundled with the Tableau server 10.3. So you can actually query your Postgres repository directly from the server without installing any graphical user interfaces. Is there out of the box. So first of all, let's start with something very easy. Let's start with the workbooks. But just for the record, so I'm using this TBL WG admin user. I hope that all of you know how to use this TBL VG admin user. If not, then no. But let me show it. So first of all, you need to have like a very strong user to access the repository, and this user is the strongest one. If you check your configuration in your data folder, but it's not here, but program data, Tableau config, then the TBL WG admin, like Tableau workgroup admin's password is stored here in the admin password field. And as you see right now, most of the database passwords are encrypted in the Tableau Word, so it's not that easy or straightforward to get the information from here. However, if you go here and says tabablin get and the parameter name, you will get the password for this user. So this tabablin get actually decrypts all the encrypted fields in your configuration file. So this is the password. The username is tblwgadmin. And now if you connect to your repository with this user, practically you see every table is required to do exercise like this. So as you see, we have the samples here. And this is the boring workgroup table. However, as you can see, we have data ID and reduce data ID fields, and these fields can be used to actually link it to the repository data table, and the repository data table stores the large object identifier, and this large object identifier is the key to get the actual content for this workbook. So let's say, let's start with this query. So I just take the workbooks, join with the repository data, and here we have the regional dashboard, and we know that this is the content ID. This is the ID where Postgres is storing the data. So if I just copy paste this and say, let me export this into this regional, let's save this large object into my file system, and it's a tvwx maybe, let's see. And now I have it, the timestamp matches, and again, this is the package workbook. And as you know, I can just have a look in it, and this is the workbook. So this is the way how can I get into the workbooks or the package workbooks. Start from the workbooks table, join the repository data ID, the reuse data ID field or the data ID field equals to the tracking ID inside the repository data ID. This will give me the content, the large object identifier, and with this large object identifier, I can get any information from the repository. So here are also some examples. Let's say I want to see this workbook. So these are the contents inside the repository data table. So if I like to see what's this workbook here, I just take this ID, copy here. Actually, I did it. Even if I wanted to get something randomly, execute the query, and here I have the XML inside the database, and here in this location, I can search and replace things, check for initial SQL, check for connections, and change things on the fly, which is, really required to do mass modification for your workbooks and data sources. So that's how you get to your data. And it works for workbooks, but obviously for data sources, it's pretty much the same. You just need to replace the data sources table. So what should be our process flow? We should locate the object loads using the previous queries. We should download the large objects, inject the init SQL, which is the one-time SQL parameter in the connection, upload the large object directly to the repository, and cache out. So let's see how this works. First of all, let me just edit the data source. And nope, edit. Let's remove the initial SQL completely. Let's call this new sheet. Initial took. And let's publish the one. Let's check which server I have. QB, that's good. So let's publish it to the server. So it does not have any initial SQL defined. Let's call it initial took. It can go to the default. From data source perspective, let's embed the password, publish to the server. It's nice, but since I deleted the init SQL, it just does not have an init SQL in it. So that's the part where I need to somehow search and replace things into this server. So let me show like what our search and replace tool is doing. And why? Because I'm already in this folder. That's great. So in this configuration, I just set up a inject initial SQL for every Postgres databases. This is my repository. Please do not connect right now. And let's just see how it works. And I hope it will be. Cool. It went to the database. It found one large object with Postgres. It found out that it does not have a one-time SQL. So this is the part which we removed from the server, and this was which is added. So the application name should be the Tableau server user and the workbook name after we mass modified it into the server. It's not really mass because we modified only one single workbook, but let's see it. To make sure that it will work as I want, let me just first of all kill the cache, and there is no better way to kill any database connections or cache than to kill SQL server process itself. So let me kill this guy, wait a couple of seconds until it recovers. Okay, it's ramping up, eating the memory as it should. And around 400, I will be brave enough, okay, to see how it goes. So if I open this guy, you can see that the workbook name is Isotook. I am the admin user, which is right. So this magical string was just added to this workbook by this tool. And also, if I check the log files after the mass modification, I can see that the admin user with the Isotook workbook actually executed this query. And if I, keep something, we can see that I just added a filter condition, and I'm the guy who needs to be reached out if something goes wrong. So this is, I think this is fun, and there are so many additional use cases where we are using this tool for mass modification. Maybe I have some readme file here. So you see, instead of initial SQL injection, we can do some regex-based replacing. We can search for projects, workbooks, IDs, data source, doors. It's a typo. So it's a handy tool to change things. And again, we are happy to share these nice scripts with you if you are brave enough to use it in your own environment. Okay, so what's next? A demo. And now let's go to the repository consistency checks. So why would you need to check the repo consistency, like failed, backup, restore? Again, if you are creating a backup when your system is up and running, it might happen that it will not be 100% consistent, since the database part, the Postgres repository export will not happen in the same time as you snapshot the file system. It can't be, and it doesn't happen in the same. It's more or less consistent, but sometimes it happens that you back up files which are created after you take the Postgres dump, or you just create a file which is not in the Postgres database. You can have server outages, and the file, the Postgres, and also your file system have some cache. So there might be some unwritten changes in your operating system memory which not fit the disk before some event happen. Or we saw that sometimes virus scanner just use the files, or other processes use the files, and Tableau is not able to delete things, especially with embedded access. It happens it happens sometimes. So actually, it can happen that your database repository, and as we see that the workbook XMLs and the data source XMLs are stored in the Postgres repository, are not consistent with your extracts, and your extracts, your TDE files, are stored in your file store, in your file repository. So if you have information in two different places, it might happen that they will be some discrepancies, and you should detect them. And Tableau doesn't really have a tool for this detection. And actually, it's not really documented. How can you go from one workbook extract? How can you get the file location in your file store for your workbook? So let's see how can we check the file store references in the repository and vice versa. So let's say which are the TDE files we just left in the file system, but Tableau is not really using them anymore. What can be deleted? Is there any orphan records in the database? Is there any data source what we cannot really open because the TDE file corrupted on the file system? Or is there anything what we can delete from the file system, because from the repository is already gone. So let's see how can we make this relation. How can we link the extracts with the workbooks or data sources? So I'm sure you had some nice walk, or you had a look into the extracts, the data engine folder, and you can see that your TDE files or embedded objects are stored in your data engine extract folder. Then you have some code. It's a magic part. Then you have another magic part, and then you see the TDE files, which could be refreshed or just having the state which were previously on the server. So how can we link these files with our repository? So let me do it differently this time. Let me show a demonstration first, and then I will try to explain what happened. I like it better, and since I'm the one who is running the show, I can change the order of things anytime. You have no power here. So let's go to another server, because I have so many servers that I can't really count it. It's a lot. We have so many free licenses from Tableau. God bless them. So let me show it. So this is a nice UI from our repository checker tool. And as you can see, this is how my data engine folder looks like. Here are my extracts. So that's actually the file store. And here I can see that this extract with this workbook grid is located here. And let's say if I cause some corruption. Let's just rename this file and add 0 to the end. If I refresh this page, then it will immediately tell me that there is a file missing from the file store. So from comparing the database repository with the actual file store state, I was able to find out that there is a missing file from the file store. And I can also do things like where is if the size is different or something left on the system. So how this magic works? How can I? And also let me do another thing. So we have eight rows here, and do I have a Tableau open? Let's jump out from this server and let's extract the data. Why it took, I don't know. It's 3 records, maybe 4. Great. And let's just publish this workbook to FC. And okay, yes, no. And if it's published with an extract, then I should be able to find this TDE file on the file system. So it's published. Let me go here and refresh the guy. Now I have 9 rows. This is the latest one. And I can see that I was able to find the CCE through whatever TDE file. And actually, this is the TD file what I just published right now. So my scripts were able to detect correctly this folder with the TD file, and the size and everything matches. So how does it work? First of all, let's do something here. So the Tableau base path is this data folder. The file store root is your file store root. It's in the the data engine extract. We have a distribution key, which is the first two directory. In the path, we have here a content ID and a file name. So how can we get this? First of all, we can get with these queries the data source's hidden name. That's the file name. It's not really hidden because I was able to find it, and if I can find it, it couldn't be hidden. It's whatever. So, and we can get the descriptor, which is the GUID. So GUID is the directory name. The file name is the file name inside the GUID, and the same works with data with workbook versions. So the different versions so the workbook and data source previous versions are also stored in the file store pre or 10.3. So if the document version is less than 10.3, then it's stored in the workbook version URL. And here comes the trick. If the distribution key is an SHA hash of the GUID. So if I take this GUID and take the first two letters and the fourth 5 letters, I can check how it works with with my where can I find the files in which directories. And this sh256 is a pretty common hashing algorithm, so you can do it for your own. You need to append the TD, you have to truncate the file names to 32 characters, you have to replace anything. For different legacy versions, you might need to postfix the file names with leaf. And also, if there is a copy in the file name, you need to replace it with _1 or _2 as far as you find the files. And that was it. So again, just to give you another proof that it works. Actually, it is. Then, if this is the GUID, and I go to the internet and ask for a hash calculator, let's use this, calculate this guy, then this is the hash what the internet told me. And if I take the first two characters, then the fourth and the fifth, then this is exactly where this file is stored in the file system. And just again, last query for today. This is the LUID, what we are looking for. Is it? Yeah, it is. Descriptor and file name. So maybe easier if I copy paste. It's because I take it from the data sources, yeah, instead of workbooks. I need to have a look, but I just can't copy paste it here. So I give up. But no, I don't want to give up. Because there is a different query for the embedded and not embedded data sources. And I will just not give it up. This is one. And if it's still not working, then that's the part when I give up. Okay, I will send this query, or I can get it from these sources, and this source will be just shared again. It's so shameful to close this, but yeah, I will found it. Extracts. It should be in extracts. I don't want to waste too much time because you have to ask things, I guess. So how to do it? I have one question. Like, do you have this query execution time and count workbook on the community? No, but I will share everything after I came back from my holiday. So next Monday, I will publish everything into the community canvas. So you will have everything. Okay, so any other questions? Mark,
All right, thank you very much. Now, for everyone, we are going to the Q&A time. We do have about half hour if you want.
Mark,
feel free to type. Yeah.
Mark, first question, does this make sense? I was alone for an hour, maybe 40 minutes, and it was so lonely. I see like 100 guys.
Yeah.
But I mean,
what are you thinking?
I mean, I love this stuff, but I'm just, unsure. I have
Maybe
confidence.
let's just. Are you ready to do some Q&As? Then maybe when people have more detailed questions, you can dive into some specific areas to show more.
Yeah. Okay. So, cool.
All right. We're gonna open this for Q&A. However, the line will still be muted for better recording quality. But just type your questions just by click the Q&A button. It may be at the bottom of the screen, maybe on the left side of the screen.
Of course, it's yes. So the video will be available for replay with my funny accent straight from my holiday. Yes, you can watch as much time as you want.
Well, we're still waiting for others to come up with more questions. I am going to take this advantage. I'm asking you a question here live, Thomas. The user case where you can use initial SQL. I mean, I've been thinking, is possible I can inject some picture, for example, or a transparent picture at the end at every single workbook. Remember, this is something what I was chatting with you before start about the certified workbook. Can I change something, either background of the workbook colors?
Of course you can. Of course. I mean,
that's what I'm thinking.
It's the same XML, so you can change whatever you want.
Right.
Yes.
That is what I've been thinking. Also, potentially, you need SQL to do the rule level security. Can we?
Yeah, it's also there. So if you need to set up like Oracle VPD or pass the user, that's the way how you can enforce. And again, it's really fast as you are just doing a simple database update on a single record, and these XML files are not that big. Also, the way how we do metadata management. So again, if you have 10,000 workbooks, how you can get a good lineage information? Of course, you have to parse the XML. How you parse the XML? Go to the database and parse there. So you can't just download 10,000 workbooks to unpack them and read it. It's something which you should do directly on the data source. Okay, so I have a lot of questions. So you mentioned sources will be updated. Yes, yes, yes. I will upload the PowerPoint. It's pretty ugly and it has custom fonts. So I will try my best to preserve in a good condition. But yes, so I will include the PowerPoint where you can copy paste the queries, which I mean the last one which will fix as well. So have you approached Tableau Dev about making in SQL a default for large data sources? What do you mean? So I'm just wondering, like, can you elaborate what you mean, like, to make it like a site-wide setting, so you don't need to do any hacking, but it will work out of the box? Well, I never tried that. I never tried approaching Tableau developers. Usually, it's no, it's I'm that doing everything on my own kind of guy. So actually, if I need something in Tableau, I build it.
Thomas can just add a little bit more. He was saying, why not build that functionality into Tableau server built-in?
I ask this question every day with many things. Yes, I have no idea. Maybe they are busy building the WYSIWYG. I don't know. It should be there. It will be, I guess. Anonymous, like, this looks very dangerous. Tableau really recommend we make this kind of change. Of course they do not. Of course they don't. So everything you see here is well, undocumented in this form. It's not really supported. So if you face any issues, Tableau support will not give you any additional support. But on the other hand, there are no better way to do this. So yes, this is I would say edgy cases, but I see many real use cases where these things were required. So no, it's not officially supported and nobody really recommend it, and I'm not from Tableau. Okay. And so does this query banding matter if we are only dealing with extracts on the server? Actually, it's so hard to not show it. There is a query banding already built into the extracts. So in extracts, when you check the extracts logs, and I don't want to spend more than a few seconds here. Data engine, TD server. So here, query banding. If you parse the TD server logs for each sessions and queries, you can get the WSQL session ID. So we built tools, and I can also share those tools where we can actually count extract utilization, extract CPU usage, extract queries, and link it with WSQL session IDs like username, workbooks, views. So yes, there is a query banding, but for extracts, you don't have to configure everything. It works out of the box. So every TDE server, logline, and session can be traced back to a WSQL session ID. And it's not just useful for simple query banding things, it's also useful when you are dealing with extract-based performance issues. So if you see a non-performing extract, you can see which are the queries and start optimizing them. So it definitely makes sense there, but it's not the use case is a little bit different. So, are there any dashboard queries to track the usage on how many credits are being used up on the cloud by the published dashboard? Yes, so it's if you're talking about chargeback, then we have a couple of chargeback. Well, maybe I can show this. I can show a lot of things. So yes, so there we definitely count the queries and also the TDE server, and you can do chargeback not just for Tableau utilization, but also like do Redshift utilization plus Tableau utilization if you are running on AWS, and charge back the usage to your business teams or functions. So that's something what I can share later on. By updating the XML, can we rename the workbook on the server? You don't have to change the XML. To change the name, you just need to update the name on the server. So it's one single command with this tbl wg admin user. When you log on, and maybe it's never good if I'm doing something live, but let's say this is this FC demo, and we have this regional workbook. I logged in, but this is read-only. Now let's go to another server. If we have time, I can actually show how to rename a workbook on the server. It should be easy. I mean, I know that many of my colleagues doing this all day long. I never tried, but why not? So let's see. We have this QB. That's where I was logged in, and let's pick one workbook. I like pictures, so this is the regional. And update workbooks, set name to foo, where ID is 1. I hope that's the way to do it. If not, then I will try to do it offline. Maybe here I need to refresh the I need to rebuild the cache, because these queries are served from the Solar database, so I need to rebuild that to make it happen. So if I rebuild the search index, then that name should be changed. But if not, then I will show you the way offline.
Thomas, I'm also curious what the URL changed as well.
It changes, yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's where be careful. Yeah, if you have to rename different URL for your end consumers.
So you have So the way how it works for the Viz portal, so the portal, not the visualization, it takes the data from the database and cache it in your cache server. So after you update something here, then you have to go back and reload the cache on your server, and then all these cache names will be retrieved from the server, and yeah, it will work. So I guess it's answered. Is there any role-level security example using the Tableau server user? I think there is. So it's for Michael Brown. I think yes, but I don't know. If you can find me offline, and I can get you. If you reach me out, I can send you an example. I don't really know it right now. I know that we did it, but I just don't know. Okay, so are the results of the initial SQL available to the workbook SQL? Yes. So let's say if you create a session variable, actually you can create you can insert rows into a table. So yes, you can query things what you set in the init SQL. So this application name can be used in your query. So yes, there is a way. This would allow us to implement column level security. Definitely. So this is the way how you can do column level security. So this is for Jarod. Yes. So that's the init SQL is definitely the key for both row and column level security. Okay. Would you be able to share the chargeback dashboard? Yes. So I will share it, and this is like, you know, how the interaction look like, which project using how much CPU seconds, what's the chargeback rate. You can build some cost models like how many cores you have, what's the labor expense, storage expense, and annual expense, and based on these models, you can do a lot of, you know, sophisticated things. And yeah, so this is something what many people are doing, and I can share it as well. Okay, so if we insert data into Tableau metadata, will it affect support agreement? Well, Victor, I have no idea. I think that's something what you should discuss with your account manager or SC. So this is more. It really depends how much you go into the server. I think some things are not really a problem, but it's better if you have a sales consultant. Then it's better to have his approval or blessing if you'd like to do many, you know, advanced things. So we never had any issue, and our elite support is we're working with many elite support these guys, and they never had any issues. But yeah, check it with your account manager.
Similar here, this is Mark. We also update directly the database for certain things. For those feel very critical for our business. Like we change the extract priorities based on last few running duration, which change the task table directly for the priorities. It's not officially supported by Oracle, by Tableau, but it is important for us.
So Apple is there enough. We did many things at very large Fortune 50 companies, and all, and we never had any claims or any problems from Tableau side. So it's not encouraged, but yeah, sometimes you have to do your best, and Tableau really understands that the business is the first. Okay, so that was all the questions. I will upload everything, and including the PowerPoints, fixed the last script. I was happy that I was able to rename a workbook on the fly. Sometimes, you know, it's good to do some freestyling. And thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Thomas, and thank you everyone for attending this webinar. Have a great weekend. This recording will be available at Tableau Server Community by the end of today. Thank you, Jordan from Tableau, for putting this together every single month. Have a good weekend, everyone. Bye.
Bye.